Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you give back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey everyone, it's Clint Salter. Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. I'm super pumped for today's conversation. We are talking to the amazing Belinda Rosenblum. She is a CPA and wealth expert who helps you take, I love this, the worry and fear out of money. Now, I know that so many of you get stressed when it comes to numbers. You kind of hide. You're like, Clint, I don't want to look in the bank account. I might look today. I don't want to look tomorrow. Well, Belinda is an expert in helping you feel comfortable around the figure. She's got an amazing company, ownyourmoney.com, where she offers a proven 4-step system around really guiding you around the finances inside of your business. I am so happy to welcome the amazing Belinda to the show. Hey, Belinda, how are you?
Great. Hi, Clint. It's great to be able to be here with you today.
Woohoo! We're talking about money, and I love talking about money because it's something that our studio owners don't like talking about a lot. So I'm super pumped to dive in. So one of the things, Belinda, our studio owners say is, Clint, I'm stressed. I'm struggling with bills, with debt. How do you help your clients and people that you work with kind of get out from under this burden of financial stress?
Sure. So I think it's a great place to start because it really meets our listeners where they are, and I think that that's the reality. I think that people wake up every day just way too stressed. There's so much anxiety that is like a black cloud that follows us everywhere we go. And it's really there because we're just not in control of it. So what happens, and it's partly why I named the company Own Your Money, is that we end up feeling more owned by our money instead of actually realizing that we are the ones that have the ability to be in control. We do have to look. That is an important piece of the puzzle. But that is possible to own your money. Starts with you recognizing that you actually have so much more control over things than you realize. And so what happens is when we feel like a victim or when we hide in the fear, the shame, the embarrassment sometimes of our situation with money, we're not actually helping ourselves. And if anything, ignorance is not bliss. It's actually the opposite because it has us feel worse and puts us in this downward spiral. And so the alternative is actually so much more fun. Like if you want to have more fun in your business and in your life, it all really starts with being able to look at your money and then allow money to be the tool that can help you. I use hashtag fund your fun, but really fund the life that you want now and the life that you want in the future. And stepping in to understand that there is both a mindset piece and a really like getting control of the head trash that I think that we hold on to very unconsciously. And then also learning the practical skills that you were likely never taught. I mean, I think that one of the biggest things for business owners particularly, but really for all of us, is that we were never taught money. Right? And then all of a sudden we have this hobby, we want to turn it into a business, we have so many responsibilities, and it's like we can't even handle our own money. And then now all of a sudden we're in charge of this business money. Like, what do I do? This is a big question mark. And so I think really to start to deal with the stress is to say, wait a second, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I may feel broke right now, but I'm not broken, right? I'm not a failure. Yeah. It's just that I never learned. I never learned how to get my head on straight about it. And I just never learned the skills that I need around money. So let me learn it now, just like I learn everything else in my life.
Totally. And I think that's the important thing is it is something that we need to learn. So often our studio owners are like, okay, what do I need to do? Like, and people, I don't know if you find this, but people are looking for like that quick fix or that instant answer about their money. And it really is a process and as an evolution. Where should like, where do you suggest that your clients start? Where should our studio owners start? What's like a tangible step that they can take to get out of maybe financial stress or that burden that they feel, or the anxiety that you mentioned?
Right. So I think first thing, it's interesting. I just think I just did it naturally. I want everyone to breathe. Like, what happens around money, like when you talk about the stress, and it's almost like I can imagine people out there listening to us on their iPhones. I listen to your podcast too. It's rock star, even if you're not a dance studio owner.
Thank you.
But that, just take a breath. I think when we talk about this idea of financial stress, and I really talk on the other side of like breaking that money stress cycle. But what happens is people like literally hold their breath. They just get really scared and anxious about it. And I want people first to realize that, like, yes, we can do this. Like, I think there's a bit of a belief that's really important as an initial step to get, yes, okay, I can figure it out. I just need to learn. And part of it is really figuring out who can I learn it from is an important part of this step too. But getting that, we need to identify first, what are those areas where you need to learn more about? Not with any judgment, not with any shame, just getting like, okay, what do I need to learn more about? Okay, I need to be able to look at my numbers without emotion. Okay, that's one skill that I want to learn. And actually, I have an assessment that I think would be really helpful for our listeners.
Awesome.
And I actually set it up at ownyourmoney.com/dance, just to make it super easy.
Awesome. That's great. I love that. ownyourmoney.com/dance.
Yeah, DANCE. Yep.
Yes.
And so it's as easy. It's almost like a money personality quiz, but it starts to just highlight for you, what are the skills? Where do you start? Like, where do you specifically need to start? Not like Joe Schmo on the street, but like you, what do you need to get started with? And, you know, as you identify the gaps, then we need to start to look at, okay, are they mindset related? Are they practical? And just start to move you forward with the education, really, like with the training that you need. It's why I developed my Moneymakers Academy. It's because I think that it's like, if we can release the shame around it, we just need to get started. And so I literally teach people week by week, what do they need to know about their money? And so once you can identify the gaps, and then we really start to close those skills gaps by having the training and the teaching, then that's how you start to feel more in control and really self-sufficient. You know, because I feel like people want that feeling of being able to have more choice freedom, you know, with their time, with where they spend their money. And they can't do it when they're just in the stress and scarcity, right? Like, we're not making the best decisions with money when we find ourselves tight and afraid. We're just not. We're making the decisions out of fear and not out of love and trust and abundance that's really possible. And I think that it's a few levels under the surface. So I think that if people almost look at their studios and they're like, on the surface, everything should be running well. Like, I should be making more money, people might be thinking, or, you know, we should have more members or clients or, you know, participants in the dancers, so to speak. It's usually because there's some underlying head trash that has them limit themselves. Right. And so that's why identifying those pieces of the puzzle in the assessment are also important, because it's those things that are often in the world of 80-20, right? Where people are doing 80% right, but it's the 20% that you're not doing right that's having the 80% of the impact, particularly on your profit. You know, I think that one of the things that I'd like to see people do too, even as a result of listening to this today, is to go look at your numbers. Like, I can't tell you how many people, if I think about the mistakes that business owners make, one of the key ones is that they don't look at their numbers and they don't allow themselves to help make choices about the business based on the numbers. So it's like, if you want to do something and it's going to cost money, then think about, how can I run a special program, for instance, that can help fund whatever XYZ thing I want to do.
Yeah, I love this. This is
makes
right
up your alley, because you definitely drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, but you know what I mean? The appreciate the message here.
100%. I know that the whole message and what you talk about, and I know that also the book that you co-authored, Self-Worth to Net Worth, is great, talks a lot about this as well. So I'm such a believer in this message, and it's an important one that I wanted to bring to our studio owners. I want to ask you, switch gears just a little bit, and ask you, Belinda, about our studio owners that are not paying themselves a wage. Mm-hmm. How can they turn this around? What do you say to business owners that are running a business, but they're not, they're really kind of not valuing themselves by paying themselves, a wage?
I'd like to see that change starting today, and literally
yes.
to have them, have your studio owners really say, like, that's not okay anymore. I think that we tolerate a lot that we just don't have to. It's not okay to be putting in so much value and so much time and so much energy and not even being able to be paid for that work. It's like you wouldn't expect somebody else to do that. So why are we expecting you to do that? Mm-hmm. And it's one thing if it's in your first 6 months, year, 2 years, even 3 years of business. But I think what's happening is that people get in that cycle and then they don't know how to get themselves out of it. Right? What's happening is that they haven't been paying themselves, and they're kind of like, well, I don't know where that would come from. So what I want people to do is to start to look at, on a baseline level, how much do I want to be pulling out of the business to be able to fund my personal life? Because I also see it on the flip side. Sometimes I see people pulling too much money out of businesses, and then they end up creating business debt, when really what's happening is that their business can't afford to pay them as much as they're paying them. Mm-hmm. And they're creating business debt when really it's personal debt, right? When really it's just that they're not making enough money to fund their personal expenses. So it's key to know what that personal number is, what that baseline expenses are for your personal life that you want to be pulling out of the business in the first place. Right? My instinct is that they're probably getting funded, so to speak, like by a partner or a spouse or something if they're not taking a wage. Mm-hmm. But to really decide, like, what's the household contribution that you want to make, to your own or to your family or whatever, and start to work your way towards that. Like, even if this week you just give yourself $50, we just start this new habit of you paying yourself more money. And I think that really looking at the numbers and looking at the profitability, this is now getting slightly more advanced, but I feel like a lot of you people will appreciate this, that to start to look at the profitability of the different programs and the profitability of the overall business, and then the profitability of certain programs. So like if you know that certain classes have capacity, for instance, and then let's spend some energy and do a special marketing initiative focusing on filling that class. Because, for instance, that class only has 5 people in it, and you're paying the teacher, and you're basically just breaking even on that class. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how can you get 10 people in that class, generate more profit for yourself, and in your head be like, okay, that's going to help fund my salary.
Yes.
Right? And really get in the habit of deciding that you're going to take a wage just like you pay everybody else. You deserve a wage too. And let's start to figure out what that is and start to build it up. So if it's $50 this week, let's make it $100 next week. And let's make it $150. Let's make it $200. And really start to build it up and get that it is no longer okay to not pay yourself.
Yeah. Exclamation mark.
Amen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have any suggestions that you give people around paying themselves?
I mean, definitely along the same lines. I think it really does come down to understanding, the numbers, what's coming in, what's going out. It really is around, the budget. And I wanted to ask you around, budgeting as well, because we get so many questions like, what should be in a budget? How should we prepare a budget? What about like our off season or summer when we might be closed? Like, how do we factor those things in? So I'd love to kind of hear your advice around, budgeting for our studio owners.
Sure, absolutely. And keep in mind that what I'm telling you, honestly like to see you do both personally and professionally. So like in the academy, this is the same process that we go through for people for their personal. And if they have a business, I want them to do the same process for their business. So basically what you do is, just like I said, you need to know your baseline expenses for your personal. So you know how much you want to be pulling out to be paying for those expenses. And then ideally for those owners who are making more profit, get to the point where they're pulling out for the baseline expenses plus pulling out for some savings so that they can start to be generating some personal savings. Just because you're running your own business by far does not mean that your savings stop. If anything, I wanted to get to the point where this business really helps to fast track you in a way that being in a job couldn't do. Right? Like we actually have a lot more upside because we run a business and because we get to control this than we would have if somebody was just writing us a paycheck. So what I want to see you do is figure out what the baseline expenses are personally and figure out what the baseline expenses are for the business. Okay. And generally those may have a little bit of a range, but they probably run about the same thing every month. And that's less variable, right? So that's pretty much fixed. It might be rent or mortgage or, the core staff that you have there, that kind of thing, right? So you have those regular expenses. Now, separately from that, I have our members, our clients do what's called a money map. And I work with some people privately and most people through the Moneymakers Academy. So in a money map, essentially what's happening is you're putting across the top the months of the year. So let's just say January to December. And then down the left are the items that are more what I call unusual and frequent. So basically what happens is frequently there's something, but each one feels unusual. Okay. So if you can imagine on a personal level, it might be things like vacations, birthday parties, just all of the things that they don't happen every month, but every year they happen. Right. And so what's happening is it's almost like we pretend that we only have the regular expenses. We pretend like we don't have any of those unusual items. And so what happens is it's the unusual items which often get people into debt.
Yes.
Because they haven't ever thought about it. They haven't ever stopped long enough to think, wait a second, how do I make provisions for those? Okay. And so I went sort of personal first because it's almost easier to wrap our head around that, right? You know that at some point during the year you want to take a vacation. Well, it's going to cost some money. Right. And like, that's not just, and then in that month that you're going to take the vacation is not necessarily the month that you're going to make more money. If anything, it's probably the other way around because you're working less, right? You're not running any special promotions or things. But other like non-monthly or irregular expenses on the personal side might be things like insurances or car maintenance or repairs or let's see, what are some other ones that I have? I just pulled up the money map that I give to people in the program.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes expenses for your vet or school expenses. Like I have, parents that are helping out for tuition for college. And so they know 3 times a year they have to make payments. Right. So one of the key ways for people to feel more in control is to plan for those variables. So now we're going to transfer it now from personal to business. I want you to do the same kind of money map, right? With January through December on the top, and then those irregular items down the left. Okay, so you can have some of the base expenses, like, at the top, like base expenses. And then under that, have the irregular expenses. So like if you know that, and this is kind of what a budget would generally do for people, right? If they're budgeting for a year, then they need to budget in the changes in the income and budget in the changes in the expenses. So some of the examples you gave were maybe off season when some of the expenses might be lower, but I'm thinking of it the other way, maybe when they know they're gearing up for school promotions, like when kids are going back to school and you want to register everybody for the classes, they should be putting more money aside for marketing, say in August or September, at least in the US, that's the time frame, right?
Yeah.
And so we know those things are coming. We know that there's some seasonality to your business. So let's plan in the seasonality and the expenses. And then this is, again, a little advanced, but I think that it's so crucial that if you know that there's seasonality to your income as well, so like if you know that your income is actually lower in certain periods, be proactive about planning other activities in what are generally your slower months to offset what could be a historically seasonal lower revenue month. And again, this is all part of you being in control, of you recognizing that you're actually in control of a lot more than you may have given yourself credit for. So like we have a client in the academy, and one of the upgrades you can do is you can get weekly accountability. So one of our accountability coaches was just talking with her, and she has this week is school vacation week here. And so she was concerned because she's a teacher, and she kind of knew that she would have more time, and she has more expenses because her kids are home, right? And so she was worried about being able to pay for those extra expenses for taking the kids away for a couple of days. So we said, well, how about this? What if you do some tutoring? So what if you run a special promotion for kids that are home during the school week, and you do some tutoring this week? So she's bringing an extra $300 this week.
I love it.
Right? So instead of like getting behind or feeling like, oh, I have to feel guilty, or I can't take my kids away, or, do these things I want to do, we just said, make more money and pay for that. You're not a victim to this. You get to make this happen. And everybody listening has that same ability. And if anything more, because you all are dance studio owners, you run the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, let's go make it happen. Let's get creative, and let's think about what can you put into place to be offsetting that off-season time, right?
Yeah.
To, maybe you rent the studio out to you get creative and you rent it out to other types of businesses or other types of people who could use the studio when you may be slower. Right? Instead of just being like, oh, I guess it's going to be vacant. No, maybe, I'm a coach. Maybe I could run a workshop there one afternoon. I talk about mindfulness with money. Maybe I could do a workshop on meditation there. Who knows? Yeah.
It's just thinking outside of the box as well.
Right. And really getting that you are the owner of your money. Your money does not have to own you.
So good. Look, Belinda, we've run out of time. I could talk to you for another 2 hours, I feel like. Maybe you need to get you back on the show, or get you to one of our inner circle retreats to speak to our members. That would be fun.
Wow. Yeah, that would be great. I think that there's, it's so interesting too. I was just talking, I have a 2.5-year-old, and I was just telling her, 'cause she was like dancing around our living room. I'm like, we need to get you into dance class.
Yes.
So this has me already thinking cute about having my little, soon to be 3-year-old in a little dance class. So I think it's great. And
everyone should be in dance.
Yes, I'm on board too. I was when I was younger. I was not the most coordinated, but it was our attempt at helping me be a little more coordinated in modern dance and ballet and all that as well. But that's a story for another day, Clint, I think.
Yes. Well, great to talk to you. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure our studio owners that are listening have a page or two full of notes just from the golden nuggets that you dropped for us. Where can our studio owners go to get more information about you? I know they can check out the quiz as well, which is ownyourmoney.com/dance. Where else can we find you?
Yeah, so I'd say that's their best bet. And then that way we can get them started and really feel like, okay, I can do this. I can figure this out. Or once you've jumped in there, then we'll send you some other kind of follow-on money tips and videos that I'm working on. And you're really like in the know in our world at that point. The book you mentioned, Self-Worth to Net Worth, that's at selfworthbook.com. So that could be a nice resource for people too.
Awesome.
And then I'm Own Your Money everywhere. So I'm Own Your Money on Facebook. I'm ownyourmoney.com. I'm at Own Your Money on Twitter. Like that's me. 11 years.
You're everywhere. Own Your Money. I love it.
And that's where we are. But I would say start with ownyourmoney.com/dance, and let's really help you figure out your money personality and really where do you need to get started with the specific skills that will really help you to take control of your money, take the worry and fear out, and really be the best business owner that you can be.
Awesome. Belinda, thank you so much for your time. Such a pleasure to chat with you, and I look forward to having you back again.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thanks so much, Clint.
Thanks, Belinda.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.